Every parent in this room right now wants to know, what did you do?
I helped them to regulate their nervous systems, is actually what I did.
How'd you do that? How did you do that?
However difficult their behaviors may be, they're still beautiful children. We did it with movement, we did it with breath, we did it with singing, making different sounds, and I got them to hug themselves, and then we just did a guided relaxation, and they all settled. And I walked past a neon sign that said yoga, and I stepped in and I heard the teacher saying to a man, use your body as a vehicle of prayer. So I started yoga when I was a teenager, and I went to my first class, and everybody was dressed in white. They were chanting, there was incense burning, and I thought it was amazing. I don't remember any of the physical practice though. But it was a very sensory experience for me. And I felt like I'd found a pathway to the divine, if you want to call it that, or source energy or God, or whatever you want to call it, that I hadn't felt that I had experienced before and kind of knew about, but I felt it really strongly in that moment. And they sent me home with one of the yoga books, the philosophy books, which is called the Bhagavad Gita, which is all about the madness of the mind, actually. Mm-hmm. And I loved it. And a few years later, I moved myself to New York for varying reasons. And I walked past a neon sign that said yoga, and I stepped in and I heard the teacher saying to a man, use your body as a vehicle of prayer. And I'm like, ooh, I'm home. So that was kind of my journey into it. And I remember going into that classroom, and all of these kids are like, there was no autism diagnosis. They were just good kids or bad kids, really, and all I could see with these kids, like who felt like me, who couldn't sit still, who were twittering and twitching and needed to move, and know that feeling of not wanting to be in your physical body because it's just too uncomfortable. I'm going to try and share with the kids what has helped me. So by the end of the first session, they're all lying down, they're all quiet. Two of the teachers had burst into tears, and the others are looking at me like I'm a witch, going, who the hell are you? What just happened here? Just felt very, like easy to me. So then I ended up pioneering children's yoga in the UK.
Hi guys, welcome to another edition of Entrepreneur Insights, and this week's guest we have the wonderful Jyoti, who's going to tell us about her business, which is called
Special Yoga,
and
I have another one called Love from Jyoti.
There you go. This is Jyoti. Man, this is going to be one of the most interesting interviews I've had in a long time. Jyoti, just tell us what you do first of all, and people then.
So Special Yoga is an organization I founded 20 plus years ago. And it's a training school in yoga therapy for children with special needs. So we train up parents and educators and therapists and any yoga teachers that happen to be teaching kids like that. Okay.
And that's one side of the business. And the other business is called?
Well, the other business is an emerging business. It's called Love from Jyoti. And it's where really I talk about my journey to self-love.
To self-love. Okay.
Yeah. And in both cases, there's two books coming through, one for each.
Oh my God! Listen, I don't know which one to talk about first, but I'll tell you what. We'll talk about the self-love bit, right, and how you got into it.
Well, I think I've been a spiritual seeker all my life, and I've talked to source energy, God, whatever you want to call it, since I was a wee little thing, and I think my journey, because I've been kind of like a freedom seeker and a spiritual seeker, and always wanting to understand more about how spirit works, how the world works, how energy works, how, not from a mechanical perspective, but more from a spiritual perspective, it kind of just came through. And when I came out of I had a very painful breakup last year and of a relationship, and it just kind of really pushed me into a much deeper place inside myself to really heal me, as opposed to just like rebounding straight into another one, which is not what I wanted to do. And so I just straight into it, really.
Can I just stop you there for one second? This healing, a lot of people mention it. How important is healing after a breakup?
Oh, I think it's incredibly important. I think it's incredibly important because I think that all of our relationships are, have an opportunity to teach us something. And if we don't deal with whatever's come up for us in whatever relational field it is, you just take it with you to the next one, and then you just keep having the same stuff arise over and over and over again. Whereas if you take the time to really kind of sit with the wounds inside you, I mean, I won't do what I've done before again, that's for sure.
What did you do before?
Ooh. Well, I think we all look for extra. I think to some degree we all have unmet needs that want to be loved, that want to be met, that want to be heard, that want to be loved, and so I think we go into relationships looking for that external validation, and when and that becomes like a honeymoon period in your relationship, and then when things get tougher, can you stick it out? Can you actually meet another? Can you be really honest with another? Where do you go in all of those stories? And so it was in that place that I started to look at. I mean, he bounced straight into straight into the arms of another woman virtually immediately, whereas I took my time. And whatever happens to him. It's got nothing to do with me. But
the house has not been burgled, is it?
no, my dog is like attacking the dustbin, actually.
Oh, I see. Okay, all right.
So I'm going to come out because otherwise it's going to drive me mad.
Right.
But the wind is blowing a little bit out here, so that's all right.
Okay.
So I think that when you meet those wounds, we all have wounds from childhood. We all have unmet needs. We're all basketfuls of unmet needs, is actually the truth of it. And we all function in our life through trying to get those needs met in one way or another, in one form or another. And when we have an opportunity to say, okay, so I've got a wounded child in me that immediately can feel rejected very easily, can feel abandoned very easily. But if I meet her and I love her, that part of me, back to life, then I don't need someone else to validate me. So when I meet you, I can meet you on a much more conscious plane and a much more open plane, and I'm not, so I can, love comes through in a very different form when we're not looking for it for our own validation.
So how do you help someone then individually? How would you help him? How is your healing process?
Well, I think it's what I talk about, and what I when I see people one-to-one, it's really identifying where is it in you that doesn't feel worthy, because we're all walking around feeling unworthy, and it all plays out for all of us in different ways. And so when we start to meet our unworthiness, we don't have to be unworthy anymore, and therefore we can stand more in our power and our truth, and then we can do what we were here to do and have more fun and have more joy and more laughter and all the rest of it.
Is this like therapy?
Kind of, yeah. But I'm not a psychotherapist. I've had a lot of therapy, and I understand psychotherapy a lot. But it's not from that perspective, because what I'm looking at is where is it in your body. So because our body holds a story, you can talk about, oh, this happened and that happened and the other happened, and it just stays, it just repeats, right? And it might help you to identify why you do certain things, but it doesn't stop you from doing them, because you haven't actually gone into the embodied sense of what's happening to you. So when you go, because I've done body work for so long being a yoga person, I've been doing yoga for 50...
Oh, we'll get on to that.
Yeah, long time plus. Since I was a teenager, which is a very, very long time ago. I have an embodied experience in my life. So I know when I don't feel okay, my body, it like tenses up inside when I emotionally don't feel okay. And that happens to all of us, but we don't notice it because we're not connected to our bodies. And when we start to connect to our bodies, and we connect to our breath, and we connect to our nervous system, and we connect to, our hearts as well, then what happens is our thoughts change as well.
Okay. Is this sort of like the spiritual side of things?
Not really. I mean, it's more, I think, there is a spiritual piece to it, yes, but I don't think it's particularly necessarily that. I think from a scientific perspective, when I started yoga, there was no science around anything that we do. But now they talk about nervous system and polyvagal theory and all of these things that are much more recognized as, like in the more mainstream world. But what happens when we organize our nervous system is that, your breath changes, your breath calms down, you feel more peaceful, your body's more open, and your thoughts improve. The quality of your thoughts actually changes. So I carry a lot of trauma in my body, in my energetic system, in my behavior patterns, and so on and so forth. And what I've been trying to do over many years is overcome that so that I'm not a victim of it anymore, because I don't want to be a victim of it. I want to be able to move through it and use it usefully to help myself and then to help others as well.
So how do you intend to help others?
Well, at the moment, I've got a YouTube channel called lovefromjyoti.com. And so I'm talking into that. There's a book coming out of it, which I would say in a couple of months' time, we'll put out for pre-order. And so come and support me. Come and listen. Come and see what it feels like for you. I mean, it's not going to be for everybody, but I know that my energy helps a lot of people.
Yeah, you see, this is what I want to get onto the energy factor, because this is what I'm trying to say to you. This is what made me home into you with this energy. And I kept saying to you, man, I don't know what I'm doing, man. I'm trying to get somewhere in my life. And then you mentioned the word, well, why don't you manifest it? I'm like, man, what do you mean manifest? Manifest what? How do I manifest anything?
Well, if you take the kind of theory that all of your thoughts are energy, right? So we're all, sitting all around you is energy, right? Inside you is energy. Mm-hmm. So all of your thoughts are energy, and energy can be attractive or it can push away, right? So when you have negative thoughts, you're going to push what you want away. When you have positive thoughts and thoughts that it's not only just positive thoughts, it's actually where you truly have done the work to believe that you're worthy of it, then your energy field changes, and it's almost like the universe hears you and brings it to you.
Okay, wow, this is deep, man. I did say to you, it sounds a bit like a witchcrafty, isn't it? Witchcrafty. I said it to you.
The white witch, and many times in my life, I can assure you. I don't think this is witchery.
It's not witchery. It's just you're saying is truly, if you believe in something, then go for it, think about it, and it could manifest it itself. Is that what you're saying to me?
Yeah.
I'm going to start doing it. I really am going to start doing it. Okay. Okay. And the book on this side of things is going to come out when?
Maybe towards the end of the year or beginning of next year. It takes a little while to finish these things.
Okay. And we'll look forward to it. What's the name of the book? What would be the name?
Probably Steps to Love.
Wow. This is deep. Okay. And now you've got another business. This is one that makes you smile every time I mention it. And tell us about the yoga business. Tell us about it.
So I started yoga when I was a teenager, and I went to my first class, and everybody was dressed in white. They were chanting. There was incense burning, and I thought it was amazing. I don't remember any of the physical practice though. But it was a very sensory experience for me, and I felt like I'd found a pathway to the divine, if you want to call it that, or source energy, or God, or whatever you want to call it, that I hadn't felt that I had experienced before and kind of knew about, but I felt it really strongly in that moment. And they sent me home with one of the yoga books, the philosophy books, which is called the Bhagavad Gita, which is all about the madness of the mind, actually. Mm-hmm. And I loved it. And a few years later, I moved myself to New York for varying reasons. And I walked past a neon sign that said yoga, and I stepped in, and I heard the teacher saying to a man, "Use your body as a vehicle of prayer." And I'm like, "Ooh, I'm home." So that was kind of my journey into it. And then years later, when I came to teach, I didn't have any intention of teaching people with disabilities, or people with different abilities, or or children even. I've always loved children. I always thought I'd have loads and loads of kids. Which is not how my life quite worked out. I have two, but I actually have thousands of kids all over the world whose lives I've touched, and which is amazing. And so very soon, sort of, it just became very clear that was the path I needed to take. A head teacher of a very deprived school came into my class and said, "Will you come and sort my children out?" And I'm like, "I don't know, maybe I'd try." This was like the late 80s, early 90s. So it was, yoga was popular. Yoga wasn't on everybody's street corner. And I remember going into that classroom, and all of these kids are like, there was no autism diagnosis. They were just good kids or bad kids, really. Lock them up in a cupboard, or, do whatever you're going to do with them. And all I could see with these kids, like, who felt like me, who couldn't sit still, who were twittering and twitching and needed to move. And, I had that as well. I know that feeling of not wanting to be in your physical body because it's just too uncomfortable.
But some just call that being naughty.
Well, yeah. I think in those days it was, because you're disruptive. You can be quite, you can go quite far with that. And so I thought, well, this is interesting. So I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm going to I'm going to try and share with the kids what has helped me. So I found my way in, and by the end of the first session, they're all lying down, they're all quiet. Two of the teachers have burst into tears, and the others are looking at me like I'm a witch, going, "Who the hell are you? What just happened here?"
Right.
So it felt natural to me. It just felt very, like easy to me. So then I ended up pioneering children's yoga in the
Let me
UK.
just stop you there. You could tell us. No one's going to know. What did you do to those kids? Come on, man. Every parent in this room right now wants to know, what did you do?
I helped them to regulate their nervous systems, is actually what I did.
That's all you got to do?
Just love them. They're kids that, however difficult their behaviors may be, they're still beautiful children.
Oh, we know that, but they can be terrible at the same time, son.
Ooh, I know. I was one of them, and I've had two of them. So, we did it with movement, we did it with breath, we did it with singing, making different sounds, and I got them to hug themselves, and then we just did a guided relaxation, and they all settled down.
What is yoga then?
Well, yoga is a philosophy, actually. It's a philosophy of life that takes you to what would be described potentially as the state of yoga, where you are in a very united state between spirit and body and soul, basically. It's the union of our existence. And so, but most people understand it as, turning yourself into a pretzel, getting yourself into lots of twisted positions, all of that. And that's one piece of it, but it's only one piece of it. And it's a useful piece of it because it helps to clear out energy blockages and all the rest of it. But at the end of the day, your life isn't going to change if you can get your leg behind your head. But your life will change if you can learn to deal with your heart. I used to be able to, actually.
You can get your leg behind it. All the men in the room are going like, what?
I'm not going to demonstrate it now because I'm sitting on a chair. Yeah. And I've got the dog on my lap. Yeah, so, your life will change if you learn how to calm yourself, regulate yourself, sit in your heart, get away from the madness of the mind, and learn how to have more control over your thoughts.
Wow, deep. And that's what you teach this now, or?
I've been teaching it for years. I've been teaching it for 30 plus years now, but I train other people to teach the kids.
Oh, wow. So you have delegation. Where does this happen? Where does the teaching happen?
Mainly online at the moment, although I'm teaching a course in Austria and another one in Mexico later in the year, and probably in Spain as well. But in the UK at the moment, it's online. But I've got a retreat running. I mean, if you go on our website, there's loads of stuff.
No, I want you to tell us about your retreat and what's involved in retreat. Because when I look at yoga, I look at it and I look at Pilates, yoga. That's exercise. Is it exercise? Is it? Well, you just told us it's more than exercise in terms of calming your body. So, when I go on your retreat, what do I expect?
To come away feeling amazing.
No, that's a good sign. But I mean, there's many ways I can come away feeling amazing.
Oh, I have no doubt of that. I have no doubt of that one.
But what I'm trying to say is, when we go on your retreat, how do I come away amazing?
So you would be doing breath work, you would be doing movement, you would be doing relaxation, you would probably be doing some singing, we would be using some sound healing, we would, any of those things, and probably a little bit of the mind as well.
Okay. And what is the importance, let's just pick one out, what's the importance of singing, I suppose?
Well, singing vibrates your lungs. So it depending on what you sing, right? So one of the arms of yoga is chanting, which is singing, really.
I was about to say, I can't be going up there singing.
It's singing sounds, right?
Right, sounds.
The sounds are ancient sounds. So instead of like singing, I don't know, if you sang, I don't know,
Marley and the Wailers,
for want of a better, because I can't think of anything else at the moment. It's got no resonance to it. But if you were to sing with and ah, and really feel the vibrational quality of the sounds in your body, it'll have a very different impact.
Wow, man, that's deep. And so if like I'll come to your retreat and you're gonna have me doing that
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that stuff that I used to laugh about.
That's
And now you're saying it can heal me.
try it. When you try it, it works.
Yeah, but how could you validate that? How could you say it works?
Because the vibration goes back into those sounds have vibrations that go back into the back of the neck that feed into the biggest nerve in the body, which is called the vagus nerve, that goes straight into the nervous system, and whoop-de-doo, your nervous system is regulated or calmer.
Listen to the way she said it. What do you do? Like it's like a spell. No, it's very interesting, right? It's very interesting.
The thing is that it's much simpler than people think it is. It's just that people laugh at it or find it uncomfortable because it's unusual or whatever reason people find things uncomfortable. Really,
When you say uncomfortable, I mean
emotionally,
I see.
or self-consciously.
Have you heard of something called ayahuasca?
Ayahuasca?
Right?
Yeah.
Ayahuasca, yes. Does it
So
give you
ayahuasca is a plant medicine that's been used for millennium in the Amazonian jungle, and I would say in the last, 30, 40 years, more Westerners have gone and explored it. And it's now being used as medicine for mental health, I suppose. And I don't think it's always well held. And I think you really need to know who you're doing it with.
Okay.
And it's not something to mess about with, that's for sure.
Is that more into the spiritual, dare I say?
wouldn't call it the spiritual world. I would call it alternative medicine.
Oh, you're still classing ayahuasca as a
Yeah, I mean,
medicine?
it's a psychotherapy. It's used psychotherapeutically if it's used well. But I haven't seen a lot of people who've really benefited from it. I've seen a lot of people who haven't.
So it's basically just careful you go to see as regards to ayahuasca, yeah?
Yeah. But it has its place, definitely has its place. And I have seen it be phenomenally impactful for certain people in the right arena, held well, supported properly.
Okay. So your business now, back to your yoga business. You said you mentioned kids. You want to do something with the kids, charity with the kids or something?
We work with kids. I mean, that's what I train people to do. So they might be children who are anxious. They might be children who are very physically disabled. They might be autistic kids. They might have Down syndrome. They might have learning difficulties. Whatever comes. So we teach people how to connect with the children, how to help them breathe, how to help them to move if that's relevant, how to learn how to be comfortable in their bodies, which most of them aren't.
So it's basically you do the same thing with the children as you do with the adults, but you could just take the adults. Do you take the children away on retreats as well, or is that
generally not? Generally not. No. I haven't because you've got to have the right venue for that,
Yeah, and the rules, safety, etc.
Yeah,
I get it. What do you want to do with your business then?
Special yoga, we've been doing this for a long time, and we've got programs running in varying different parts of the world, but we haven't even touched the surface of the amount of kids that could benefit from it and families that could benefit from it. So we're going to make all of our courses, rather than webinar based that require you show up at a certain time, is to make them evergreen. So the evergreen courses will be available from probably September, and that means that people can just drop into them at any time from anywhere, and then we'll have clinics running and set up a whole protocol around it to support people as they're learning.
How long's the course?
Well, if you take the webinar-based courses, they're 4 months.
And at the end of it,
you have a certification and insurance. You can get insurance through our insurance company to say that you can start working with the kids.
Not as a qualified yoga teacher. What would I be?
No, it's a special yoga practitioner.
A practitioner. Even that sounds kind of cool.
Yoga practitioner.
A yoga practitioner.
Special yoga practitioner.
A special yoga practitioner. My God, what's the cost of this course over 4 months?
£500.
£500 will give you a course of you do it for 4 months online. You said it's online, yeah. And you learn how to become a special practitioner, and you could practice on children. Listen to me. Like this is
You
some kind
practice
of
with your own children if you're a parent, or you practice
yeah.
in your classroom if you're an educator,
Right.
or if you're a therapist, you can add it into. So we get occupational therapists and physiotherapists and speech and language pathologists and psychotherapists and social workers. They all come to, and so they learn how to implement bits of it, or they take away bits of it to implement into their sessions.
You mentioned that the course, right, could be for parents as well, right? How do you think parents will benefit from doing this course?
Well, I think if you parent a child with special needs, you have, I mean, parenting isn't easy anyway.
Mm.
But when you have a child with special needs, I think that there are so many more demands on you as a parent. And there's so much more, there's so much of a stronger sense that you need to fix things and make it all okay. And, and what happens is you get really overwhelmed and depleted as a parent. And as a parent, what I know is that you need to take care of yourself, because when you take care of yourself, and most parents find that really difficult, especially if you parent a child with special needs. But what happens when you do start to take care of yourself is your energy field changes, and a dysregulated child can't regulate around a dysregulated adult. So it doesn't matter what you say to the child. If you're all over the place and overwhelmed and really stressed out, your child isn't going to calm down, because at the end of the day, you are the rock for the child. And if their rock's wobbling all over the place and falling around all over the place, what have they got to hold on to that's going to support them to regulate themselves, right?
Okay.
I'm actually writing a book about it. That's the other book I'm writing.
There's 3 books.
At the moment, there's only 2.
Oh, okay.
There might be another one later.
So your parents can gain from this in teaching their child the
So
practice.
what happens when you as a parent start to change your breathing pattern, just for example, then what happens is there's an unspoken communication that happens between you and your child will start to pick up your breathing pattern and start to regulate within it. And also, it's almost like you put out an invisible circle of safety around you for the child to be able to regulate and feel safe and feel comfortable in. It's like you walk into a room with somebody who's really peaceful, and who's really calm. It makes you feel nice. You walk into a room with somebody who's hyperventilating, and I want to run out the other door.
Right. I get you.
It's exactly that principle. It's exactly that principle.
It's like the aura that you give off, basically.
Exactly.
Right.
If you want to believe that, yeah. Your aura is your energy. Yeah.
Your aura is your energy. I like this stuff. I'm sure there's so much more to learn about this.
Oh my God, it's so amazing. I keep learning all the time. I mean, there's just more and more and more to learn, isn't there? So I love it.
It's about one's energy, yeah? The energy we portray and the energy we give. So if I give enough a loving vibe, then people around me, I'll attract loving people around me. Yes? Is that what we're saying?
So you're gonna have people want to be with you, aren't you?
Let's
Ooh.
practice this. Jyoti, where can we find you?
So I'm on, I have a website, I have a email address, I have YouTube, I have Facebook, I'm on TikTok, although I might come off TikTok, and I have a YouTube channel.
And what is the YouTube channels?
It's called, we have 2 YouTube channels. One's Special Yoga, and the other is Love from Jyoti.
Oh, that's beautiful. Just before I go, Jyoti, how big is that dog? I can't believe that this is the thing that was making so much noise in the background. I thought she had some big German Shepherd or some. She shows me a little poodle type thing. What the? Oh my God! I hope to God this is. Otherwise, this is going to go to shit. If you guys picked up all the banging and the knocking, I thought it was a big German Shepherd or something. Oh my God. Jyoti, it's been a pleasure talking to you all the way from Spain. Jyoti, oh my God, thank you so much for doing this Entrepreneur Insights. It's certainly been an insight. And
so should I put the Special Yoga website in your chat thing?
You can do, but I'll post it there anyway. Yeah. Thank you so much, Jyoti. You've been a wonderful guest.
Thank you. Sorry, I was an hour early.
Yeah. Take care.